So we're going to go over 10 redlining and negotiation tips. And tip number one, this is just getting started, is when you are reviewing a complex clause, I highly recommend that you break down the clause into pieces in a way that helps you to understand it. Because if you don't understand the clause, it's going to be really hard for you to be able to negotiate it later on during a live call or with a counterparty. Now, the thing about understanding contracts is that they're hard to read, period. Like, contracts are hard to read, but especially those complex clauses that are in all caps, or if they're all lumped together, or they have subpart A, B, C with exceptions, X, Y, Z. So one of the things I like to do is I try to, reformat or restructure the information in a way that I can digest it a little bit easier. There was a study led by MIT, and in the study, they reviewed tons of contracts, like 10 million words in a contract, trying to figure out what makes contracts so difficult to understand. And it found that it's not necessarily the content that makes contracts so hard to read, it's the way that they're written that makes them hard to read. So we think about that when we're drafting contracts that are consumer facing, but also when we as contracts professionals are absorbing information from a contract. You don't have to just read it in the contract. You can move it to a table, you can color code it, you can run a gap analysis. Sometimes I even print it out old school, just so I have something that I can write on and take notes on and highlight. And this makes it easier for the human brain to digest that information and truly understand it. What do you think, Jessica? What do you do when you're first sitting down and really trying to understand a complex clause?
Ooh, I do. When we went through our prep call, it was great. You have a color coding system. I really break down, but I think what is really hard about those clauses is formatting. The formatting is terrible. Who loves all caps? Light up the chat if you love the all caps clause. It's terrible. It's really hard to read. So really breaking it down by concepts in the indemnity and limitation liability clause when I'm looking at it. So that's really how I do it. It's my mental color coding system.
Yes, I love that. So, here's an example of a limitation of liability clause. And there we have our favorite all caps, right? This just looks like a wall of text. It's just letters all blurred in together. And when you've been working with contracts for a while, you can start to recognize the patterns and the way that they're drafted. But still, if we were really diving into something that's complex and it takes us a second to understand it, I actually like to go through and highlight it in different colors based on these different elements. So let's say there's 4 key elements to limitation of liability clause. There's who are the parties that are liable, what is the scope of the liability, and then monetary cap, and then exceptions and exclusions. You could even go a step further and you could say, what about, direct damages versus consequential damages? And you can assign different colors for those. But then I'll use the color coding method and I'll actually go through and highlight the clause. So now I can see between 10.1 and 10.2, there are parties mentioned in both. There's a monetary cap or dollar value referred to. There's exclusions and exceptions. So now I'm starting to actually visually map out the information in a way that I can understand it. And that's really what's key. And it's not that you're going to deliver these red lines or maps or charts to the other side. This is just for you to be able to understand the information a little bit better.
So this is a lot of color. So this is beautiful, folks. This is the way that Netta helps process information and break it down in a digestible way for Netta's brain, or anyone here who has a brain similar to Netta's. You were totally the law student that had like 12 different highlighter colors, weren't you?
I was. How did you know?
Because you're a complete nerd. This is on brand for you. I was not. I was on my laptop looking at MySpace. That ages me. So what that says is that I process it very different. I need to break it down by different concepts. I had one highlighter color if I was even using my highlighter. Pro tip out there, take a bar exam prep course before law school and you'll do way better in law school, by the way, folks. That is the biggest takeaway.
That's so true. That is so true. Yeah. And this isn't the only way to break down the information. Break it
Yes.
down in a way that really helps you understand it. That's what the key is. Are you a visual learner like me? Use color coding. Are you okay with reading it in the contract? Maybe you can take notes on the side, or you can even change it from all caps to not all caps if that helps you. Sometimes they send contracts over in like really small font, and I will just reformat it. I'll put it in Times New Roman 12 just so that I can read it, and then I'll revert it back, before I deliver it over.
So this is really focused, folks, on how to process a complex clause, but so Netta, the way you break it down is a little smidge different than what I think about too, is the way I bucket limitation liability for everyone out there thinking about this is who's liable, the scope of liability. The other part is also what are the type of damages that are directly between the parties themselves. Any exceptions to that, and also liability for indirect consequential type of damages. So really the type of damages as well. So to really break it down by concepts is how I think about these clauses.
Yep.
Yep. And colors are pretty.
Definitely. You could do that. You could, color code it with the elements that are important to you, the things that you're looking for, what's important to your organization. What do you want to make sure is in there? What do you want to make sure is not in there? Like this one doesn't have a super cap. And if I were the customer, I'd probably want to add a super cap.